I am Kashif, and today we're diving deep into the mind of one of the most fascinating figures in the history of philosophy and mathematics, Pythagoras. Now, when most people hear Pythagoras, they immediately think of the Pythagorean Theorem, that simple little triangle equation we all learned in school: a squared plus b squared equals c squared. But trust me, the story of Pythagoras goes way beyond geometry. It's about numbers, the universe, music, and even the very nature of reality itself. And if you stay with me till the end, you're going to see just how relevant his ideas are, even today in the world we live in. So let's start with the basics. Pythagoras lived around 572–95 BCE, a time when Western philosophy was just in its infancy. In Miletus, Greece, a group of philosophers called the Milesian school had started exploring rational explanations for natural phenomena, moving away from purely religious or mythological explanations. Pythagoras, born on the island of Samos, likely knew of their work and may have even studied in their academy. Just like Thales, the founder of the Milesian school, Pythagoras traveled to Egypt, where he likely learned the rudiments of geometry. So from the very beginning, Pythagoras was blending rational, mathematical thinking with something deeper, something mystical. Here's the first mind-blowing idea. For Pythagoras, number is the ruler of forms and ideas. That's right, numbers were not just tools for counting or trade. They were the key to understanding the structure of the universe itself. Think about that for a second. Every shape, every ratio, every pattern in nature, from the smallest triangle to the orbit of the planets, could be understood through numbers. He didn't stop at triangles. He looked at the relationships between numbers and discovered patterns that he considered universal truths, even divine truths. Now you might be wondering, what does this have to do with music? Well, here's a story. Pythagoras reportedly discovered the harmonic ratios in music by observing blacksmiths. One blacksmith had an anvil half the size of the other, and the sounds they made when struck were exactly an octave apart. Whether or not this story is literally true, it illustrates his approach. Numbers underlie everything. Even sound, the intervals that sound pleasing to our ears, are governed by exact mathematical ratios. In short, mathematics explains harmony in music and in the universe, but Pythagoras wasn't just a mathematician. He was also a deeply religious man. He believed in reincarnation and the transmigration of souls. In southern Italy, in the city of Croton, he established a religious and philosophical community of around 300 people. These disciples followed strict behavioral and dietary rules while studying his teachings. Some of the discoveries attributed to Pythagoras, like the mystical significance of numbers, might have come from his community, but it was he who framed them as part of a coherent philosophical vision. Here's another fascinating thing. Pythagoras assigned characteristics to numbers. Even numbers were good, odd numbers were evil. 4 represented justice, and 10, the number of the tetractys, was sacred. This wasn't superstition for superstition's sake. It was part of a broader worldview where numbers were the blueprint of reality. 1 is a point to a line, 3 a plane, and 4 a solid. In other words, numbers weren't just abstract, they corresponded to dimensions, to space itself, and through this lens, Pythagoras began to understand the cosmos mathematically. His most famous mathematical discovery, of course, is the Pythagorean Theorem, but what's truly remarkable is how he approached it. The Egyptians knew about 3, 4, 5 triangles and used them practically, but Pythagoras uncovered the underlying principle that the square of the hypotenuse equals the sum of the squares of the other 2 sides for all right-angled triangles universally. That's when mathematics stops being just a tool and becomes a lens to understand reality itself. And then Pythagoras took this thinking further. He argued that the cosmos itself is governed by mathematical rules. The planets, the stars, even the elements have harmonic relationships. He called this the music of the spheres. Imagine that the very arrangement of stars and planets, the elements of nature, all in a kind of cosmic symphony, mathematically harmonious. Centuries later, medieval and Renaissance astronomers, including Kepler, took inspiration from this. The idea that the universe could be understood through ratios and numbers survived for thousands of years. But Pythagoras's genius wasn't just in mathematics, it was in connecting mathematics with philosophy, with ethics, with religion. He believed that the ultimate goal of life was to free the soul from the cycle of reincarnation, and he saw strict behavioral rules and contemplation, what we might call scientific thinking, as a path to that. Freedom, for him, the mystical and the scientific were not contradictory, they were two sides of the same coin. Now imagine this in modern terms. The idea that patterns, ratios, and numbers underlie everything is something we see in architecture, in music, in physics, even in technology. When we marvel at the proportions of a building, the chords in a song, or the symmetry of a natural form, we are glimpsing the kind of universal order Pythagoras tried to explain. The numbers are rulers of forms and ideas. Concept isn't just ancient philosophy, it is a lens for understanding the universe itself, a framework that still resonates today. Pythagoras also taught that reason is immortal, all else mortal, and that's something worth thinking about. In a world where everything seems chaotic, he offered a way to see underlying order. To understand that the cosmos isn't random, it has structure, elegance, and harmony if only we know where to look, and that, my friends, is why Pythagoras isn't just a footnote in a geometry textbook. He's a revolutionary thinker who connected math, philosophy, ethics, and even music into a unified vision of reality. And here's the takeaway for all of us, whether you're listening to music, studying the stars, or marveling at the patterns in nature, look for the numbers, the ratios, the harmony, because that's where the universe is speaking directly to you. So next time you hear about triangles or octaves or the order of the cosmos, remember Pythagoras. He saw the world through numbers, and in doing so, he glimpsed the structure of reality itself. His ideas might be thousands of years old, but they are more alive than ever, reminding us that the universe at its core is beautifully ordered, mathematically precise, and endlessly fascinating. If you enjoyed this dive into Pythagoras, make sure you like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history, philosophy, and the secrets of the universe. Hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. I'm Kashif, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay curious, stay inspired.